Alright, welcome back to the Subaru build. Apologies for the poor lighting, but just figured I'd talk about something that's on my mind. I guess a little update quick. It is April 9th, 2021. Still don't have the car back. When it'll be done, I don't know. Don't know of any particular thing that's holding it up, but that's where it's at. So it being April, local car guys starting to pull their fun cars out for the year. I've been hearing them driving around, revving it up in the parking lot next to the apartments I live in at the moment. One of the biggest things I want to do with this channel is, just keep it real, really tell the whole story, keep it relatable, not just show all the good stuff, which obviously, as you can tell, there hasn't been much good anyway with this build. But I just want to talk about kind of what this build has meant to me and a little more into my history with the car. So we'll throw it way back to early kind of high school days. Didn't grow up in a car family. Like most people, I had a liking for cars in general. You see a cool one, you can appreciate it, but eventually my dad got an 06 Mustang GT that was a manual. I eventually learned how to drive said manual, and after that I was just in love with cars. That was my new favorite thing. I didn't know anything about them, but I knew that I really liked them. So with that, the car I was driving at the time was a 2000 Lincoln LS that my dad handed down to me. Nothing wrong with that, good car. Even that had a V8 in it, but I just knew that I just had to have a manual. Driving a manual car was my new favorite thing in the world, and is still today my favorite thing in the world, driving a fun manual car. So, tried to spend my money wisely, saved up, worked over the summer, worked more through the school year, ended up getting a Mazda Speed 6. So if you're not familiar with that car, it's kind of like Mazda's STI. It's all-wheel drive version of the Mazda 6, turbocharged, made pretty much the same power as an STI, maybe I guess a little less. The one we got for what we think was a pretty good deal. It had some mods already done to it, intake, exhaust, blow-off valve, short shifter, some gauges. It sounded obnoxious. I loved it, but it was in badly need of a tune. It was running very rich, and at the time, like I said, I didn't come from a car family. I didn't know anything about cars. I just knew something wasn't running right. So we tried to take it to a couple shops. Ended up with a Cobb tuner. They were able to do a little with that helped. So before I continue on with the Mazda portion of the story, I just want to talk a little bit more on the personal side about my experience in high school. Now, I didn't have any rough life. I wasn't bullied. I didn't have anything crazy bad happening in my life, but nonetheless, I did suffer very badly from depression in high school. It got so bad to the point that I even had insomnia for a little over a year. There would be days at a time with only on like an hour of sleep, and as you can guess, you are a total zombie at that point. And then on top of that, with the depression hitting me at its peak, there was nothing that made me happy. All my favorite things, it just didn't matter. They did nothing for me. I felt nothing. Even got to a point of participating in a relatively minor form of self-harm. I bring this up not looking for pity. Obviously I made it through. I'm doing well. But I just want to, put my story out there and kind of show how, passion projects can really do things to you mentally as well. So on that subject, I was in a very bad place. I felt almost nothing made me happy except one thing, and that was my car. With that obnoxious exhaust, turbo lag, getting onto the interstate, or there was a bridge I went under every day going to school. Open her up, hearing that exhaust, or hearing that ridiculous blow-off valve, no matter what, that could bring a smile to my face. No matter how bad a day I was having, no matter if I just went 4 days without getting any sleep, I knew that every time I got in that car and had a chance to, really go through the gears, let it rev out, that it would make me smile. And was a major factor and kind of a turning point for me my last year of high school. On top of that, that's when I started getting into fitness, did my first marathon, got a lot healthier, lost a ton of weight. So that by far was the biggest thing that helped me. But my car was that one thing that it was the one thing that could always make me smile. And then fast forward along a little more, we're still trying to work to get the problem solved, and we still don't personally know. When I say we, I mean my dad and I. I'm still in high school. I don't know anything. And then he isn't a car guy, so he doesn't know that sort of stuff. And then happened to get my first girlfriend. It's ended up being a pretty long-term relationship, and that ended up kind of being that other thing, that relationship, my girlfriend, that could make me happy, just kind of pull me up a little. I still suffered really bad from depression. I'd still have really bad days. I was far from in the clearing, but at least things were looking up. I had those two things, my relationship and my car. And then come to the end of the school year, my senior year of high school, part of my graduation present from my parents was some money to go get the car tuned at a dyno. I still didn't even really know what that meant. We were just told that could, hopefully fix the issue with my car. So at my graduation party in the parking lot, I'm not even doing anything excessive. I didn't let the car warm up properly, I'm sure. Just revved a little, and I swear nothing excessive, and it blew a rod right into the block. That hit me hard. We didn't end up keeping the car. We didn't even know where to start with that. We ended up selling it to a guy whose wife has a Speed 6, but without any mods, so he was just gonna take the engine, swap into that. So that guy got a great deal. But when that happened, when my car blew up and I realized that I wasn't going to get it back, if I'm honest with myself, if I didn't have that girlfriend at the time to help me get through that, I honestly think that I would have been on a very short path to trying to take my own life, which, again, I'm not looking for any pity. I'm just trying to explain, what this build has meant to me, what cars mean to me. I think that really would have been my breaking point, losing something that was the only thing that could make me smile, no matter what was going on. And like I said, fortunately it didn't happen. I made it through. I attribute that to staying healthy and having that relationship as a method of support. And that summer I tried to work harder, get some more hours. I saved up enough to get the Subaru, that 2.5 RS. At the very end of the summer, had enough money saved up that on a Colorado trip with some friends and family, picked it up while we were on that trip because I bought it in Colorado. Part of why I bought that car was, I saw that video on the Smoking Tire or Drive, one of the two, where he reviewed those two RSTIs. I still don't know anywhere near enough about cars. Didn't seem like it would take much to get the Subaru up to at least like Mazda Speed 6 performance. So from day one when I had that car, the goal was to STI swap it. I loved the look of the car. You know, I was into Subarus. I was looking at them along with the Speed 6s. Just so happened that the Speed 6 was the best deal. So, you know, and then thus starts the story. Swapped the coilovers about a year after I got it. A year after that, had a shop put that STI drivetrain in it. You know, I was trying to learn about cars, trying to be smart, having the car be ready for the power when it came to that. And then, you know, fast forward a little bit more to our kind of Frankenstein engine swap that, as you know, failed. So car sat for a while, but still every single day for the last 5 years at that point, I daydreamed about having a fun manual turbo car again. Every single day, that was a goal in mind. Every time I spent money, every time I focused on saving more money, getting internships that paid better than your typical summer job, I always had this engine swap in mind, just day after day, always in my head. So fast forward, you know, school was super overwhelming for me. I mean, I'm smart, I made it through engineering school, but it was far from a cakewalk. My depression issues continued. They were definitely a roller coaster. Eventually that long-term relationship ended, hit another bottom, but kept pushing through. So moral of that story and the failed engine build is that, you know, I could not handle that on top of my schoolwork, and I'll admit that whole thing, that was my failure. I gave in to an idea and I just couldn't handle it. There might have been, it might have worked out, but I couldn't handle the stress. It was my only car, school just constantly kicking my ass. So I failed that. I gave up. I threw it in my grandpa's warehouse. It sat there safe and kept working hard. My next job, I was working 65, 70 hours a week in the middle of nowhere on wind farms. Again, working on a car that extensively while working that job and trying to stay healthy, not something I can handle. It just isn't. Now I have switched jobs. I'm back in Des Moines. I work normal hours. I have more free time, and my car's still just been sitting at the shop, and it has not been a pleasant experience. At this point, I'm just sitting and waiting. It'll happen when it happens. This whole 7-year story, day after day of just dreaming about having a fun turbo car, having the Subaru be STI swapped, and really the only thing I've done lately now has been look at cars I could replace it with. I haven't driven the car in 2 years. To me now, it just feels like a dead piece of metal, just a burden, and it sucks, you know. It's just been causing me a lot of anxiety. I'm a person that I blame myself for everything, regardless of if it was my fault or not, and there's just nothing I can do. It's just sitting at a shop. And now that I have the time, it's about to be springtime, you know, when you start bringing your fun cars out, and it just sucks. I've worked so hard for 7 years to make this build happen, and now I don't even know if I want to keep the car. I have even more money than I need to finish the car sitting around that I could spend without being stupid with my money. Even if I do end up liking the car more than I think, I'm pretty confident I'm not going to put any more into it. That means I have that car and a whole bunch of money I'm not going to spend on it, where I could potentially replace the car with something much more expensive or with much more potential that I'd actually want to put the money in, and, you know, maybe start with a clean slate. Because the other thing with this car is that failed engine build during school has just programmed my brain to consider working on the Subaru as like the most stressful thing on the planet. Like, just even thinking about working on that car gives me anxiety. And I wonder, you know, if I got something else, you know, a nice clean slate, that now that I have a work vehicle that I can daily drive, so I don't have to worry about it being my only car. If I did get something else, potentially be much more willing to work on it, learn on it, not have to stress. So yeah, no, it's been a really crappy couple of years trying to make this happen, and it's just been so long and so unpleasant now that all this, and I don't even know if the car means anything to me anymore. So, you know, hate to end this on a gloomy note, but that's what I want to do with this channel, is show the ups and the downs. There's should be no reason that the car isn't done very soon, and you know, once it is, we'll see what happens. Will it win my heart back, or will there be a replacement sometime this year? Check back in for those answers.